All right, buckle up, boys, because we are headed to World War III, just as I predicted. How did I do that? Either I have a crystal ball and my name is Miss Cleo, calling me now, or this has been the most obviously planned war in the history of obviously planned wars. It's actually insulting to me how obvious this is. We're going to get to the Middle East, but first we have to take a closer look, at Donald J. Harris. After many of you were sending me clips of Judge Joe Brown, this is so random, speaking about how he knew Donald, and yeah, he claims that Donald was not black. All that coming up on Candace. So I am totally like a crazy person obsessed with this investigation because there is something so right in front of our face that we are stumbling upon, and this woman now scares me. I'm very scared by somebody who can just put on an entire act about their identity, and I'm very scared about what I'm coming across through all of these files, searching things, these slight name changes, taking on different identities. It seems pretty obvious to me that we are hitting upon some sort of an organized communist cell. You know, yesterday I had asked you guys to please send me anything regarding Alvis Cambridge's marriage to Cynthia Cambridge because I couldn't find anything about it. And somebody did find something. He changed the spelling, or maybe if we're being nice here, the journalist got the spelling of his marriage announcement wrong, but they did find it in the Kingston Gleaner. So I just want to start there because I want to provide that update. Here it is. Alvis Cambridge's marriage announcement in the Kingston Gleaner dated June 30th, 1953. It reads, "The wedding of Miss Cynthia Lopez, daughter of Mr. and Mrs. H.A. Lopez of," and it's a little cut off here, but Bushy St. Catherine Parish, it looks like, and Mr. Alvis St. Elmo Cambridge, the son of Mr. and Mrs. U.L. Cambridge. It goes on to state elsewhere that Mr. Beavis Campbell was best man, and Mr. John Strudwick, who I recognize because that would be Carmen's husband. In case you're wondering who Carmen is, that is White Iris's sister because she was the maid of honor in their wedding, and she eventually gets married to somebody with the last name Strudwick. So John Strudwick was, in fact, the best man here. So this is a very, very close family for him to be the best man. And Raymond Stewart were ushers at the ceremony, which was performed by Reverend J. Leslie McPherson. Now, even of more interest is they also have the exact same wedding song as Iris Cambridge and Oscar Harris. Again, these people seem pretty close-knit, almost a little too close-knit. But I do want to point out there that it says Alvis Cambridge's parents are Mr. and Mrs. U.L. Cambridge. So that is either incorrect or that is an intentional deviation, or rather just not a match, because if we go back and take a look at Iris and Oscar Harris's wedding announcement, if we're going to pull that up. So this is Iris, whatever you want to call her, Cambridge's wedding announcement to Oscar Harris. We can see that the names of the parents are different, just slightly different. We have, what was it, A.L. Cambridge, Mr. and Mrs. I got to find it here, a bouquet by her father. I just don't see it in this little tidbit that you've pulled up, but I'm pretty sure it's A.L. Cambridge. So they have different initials. I know that V.S. Cambridge right there at the top. Mr. and Mrs. V.S. Cambridge versus Mr. and Mrs. U.L. Cambridge. So does that signify to us that they are not related, that they're lying about their parents' names? I could not find a Mr. and Mrs. U.L. Cambridge anywhere in St. Elizabeth Parish in Jamaica at this time. And again, we cannot find Alvis's birth certificate. So this is just another huge question mark. But what we do know for certain is that he was exceedingly close to Iris Cambridge. Everyone who has emailed me, and based on my own research, it looked like they were brother and sister. Now we're wondering maybe they're first cousins. We definitely know that they spent the majority of their lives together. There are so many pictures of Alvis and White Iris hugging all throughout their lives, holding hands, all of this, which was posted under his obituary. Just so many pictures proving that the three of them, his wife Cynthia Lopez, White Iris, and him, were exceedingly close and lived in the Broward County area. Not only that, but they traveled together here to America. They landed in Miami together aboard a ship. Now, I want to show you something that's actually fascinating. So we've already deduced that for whatever reason, they, and by they, I'm referring obviously to Kamala's family, particularly Donald Harris and Kamala herself, are trying to pass off via a sleight of hand white Iris as black Iris, okay? I'm gonna break this down again. I'm gonna be real careful here. Black Iris is Iris Finnegan. He claims that Iris Finnegan, Black Iris, is Kamala's great-grandmother. She claims that it's her great-grandmother in her book, and we see no evidence of that aside from this picture, which Donald claims that he shot of Kamala sitting on her lap. I felt that Iris was the help. What we know about Iris Finnegan is that her maiden name is Allen. So she was born Aura Iris Allen Finnegan, okay? And then she marries, allegedly, Patrick Finnegan and takes on the Finnegan last name, okay? White Iris, on the other hand, was born Iris Cambridge and takes on the last name Harris, and she also has a baptismal name named Vioris, so she becomes Iris Cambridge Harris. Well, check this out, okay? In 1958, Cynthia Cambridge and her now husband, Freemason Alvis Cambridge, arrived on a first-class ship into Miami from Jamaica. And aboard that ship was also Iris F. Harris. Now, pause. What is wrong with this? Pull it back up. What is wrong with this? Her middle initial. Why on earth? Now, it makes sense that Iris and Alves and Alves' wife are all on the ship together coming from Jamaica. They make a stop. The last port they stop at is Nassau, Bahamas, before they arrive into Miami. But why is Iris's middle initial F? She was not born. She was never married into a Finnegan family. Why did she adopt that middle initial? That's huge. It's very strange that she would have done that. Remember, Donald is alleging that Black Iris, the great-grandmother, right, at no point her last name would have been Harris, just Finnegan. She was born Iris Aura Allen, again, just reiterating that, and she became Finnegan when she got married to Patrick Finnegan. So we know that this is not her on board this ship with the Harris last name. We know for a fact that that is our white Iris who married Oscar Harris. But she never had a middle initial F. I think this is the earliest indication that she was taking on the identity of the help. I remain convinced that Miss Iris was in fact the help. I told you guys yesterday that we are trying to locate this older woman who wrote this comment under a YouTube video. It actually wasn't even our YouTube video. It was somebody else that was covering my content. She wrote this, if you want to pull that comment up. I am 76 years old. Years ago, I read an article about Kamala's family of slave owners. Miss Iris was one of the house slaves of Kamala's family. When the slaves got set free, Miss Iris was old and didn't want to leave the family. Miss Iris also had a daughter who was raised in the house with Kamala's family. Kamala's parents worked out of town a lot, so Kamala was basically raised by the Black women that worked in that house. If I remember correct, her mom was a professor in some big universities, and possibly her father held a government job and traveled a lot. I can't remember where the article was, but if you find it, you will have all the proof that you need. So I really would like to pick this woman's brain. I would like to speak to her and see if she can recall where this was published, because that so fits into everything that I've been saying. And like I said, part of this was just me exploring my own heritage. Like I told you, my grandfather obviously was one of these families after slavery was abolished that opted in North Carolina. His family opted to just stay and continue working as sharecroppers. And so they worked on the same family that had enslaved them, they now worked for. So that makes sense. What that woman posted makes sense, but a YouTube comment is not proof. I do think seeing Iris F. Finnegan is some early indication. Now, there's even more proof, of course, that at the very least, the bare minimum, Kamala Harris is not Black. It isn't just Janet Jackson. Funny who the media picks on and who the media stays away from, because Judge Joe Brown has the credentials. This is a person that they know is intelligent, has had a talk show on TV, I guess you could say a judge show on TV for a very long time. And many of you guys were emailing me clips of him on the show discussing the fact that he knew Kamala's father and that he just simply knows that the family is not Black. Take a listen to this first clip before we jump into the second one.
She was everybody's favorite Hindu Indian prosecutor and attorney general and senator, and now she becomes black. But, you know, I met her daddy, fine gentleman, Professor Harris. And the problem with her being black is Professor Harris says he's Caucasian, mixed Irish and Hindu. He doesn't have any black ancestors, but his Irish ancestors owned a lot of slaves in Jamaica and had them to work on plantation. So if mama is on the birth certificate listed as a Caucasian, daddy says he's a Caucasian Hindu and has no black ancestors, how did she get to be black?
I mean, the math is not mathing. How did she become black? It doesn't make sense, okay? It only makes sense if you stole the identity of the help, which is so sick, so twisted, so diabolical, so offensive that we demand a response to this. Like I said, if a single black person is okay with this and votes for her because the media simply decided to make her black, to essentially wave a little Harry Potter wand and go, oh, okay, we just need you to be black because we need those black votes, right? And you're okay with that, you should really re-examine your life. You should deeply, spiritually search within yourself to determine what is wrong with you, that you would allow this sleight of hand to compel you to vote for this woman, despite her horrific record, by the way, of locking up black men. Who is this woman? 2 parents that were committed communists. Who is this woman? And that's not all Judge Joe Brown had to say in the matter of Kamala Harris. Take a listen.
And the birth certificate that she has is interesting because the confusion comes from a mistake. On the birth certificate, it lists the mother's race as Caucasian, national origin India, and religion Hindu. For the father, it does not list national origin. It does not list religion. It does not list anything about that, but where it says race, they put national origin in Jamaica by mistake. Now, if you've ever been to Jamaica and you go over to St. Elizabeth Parish, you see all the high, bright, and white that live in Jamaica. So I've got a good friend retired from law enforcement. He has a white wife, blonde-haired, blue eyes, but she was born in Jamaica. Her parents were born in Jamaica. One's blonde and blue-eyed, the other one's red-haired and gray-eyed. And they happen to be related to the King of England because they are aristocrats in England, but they were born in Jamaica. It's not unusual. You're not black just because you're from Jamaica, and they have a whole lot of white people that never left, and their ancestors owned a lot of slaves. The Maroons went up into the hill country and got themselves free back in the 1840s, but, you know, other than that, it is what it is in Jamaica. So just because you're from that country does not mean you are of the black race. So the problem is why don't you go get your daddy to give you an affidavit that you have a black ancestor? And since the only possible claim you have is through your great-grandmother, who he says was a Hindu house servant, that just happens to be swarthy, where'd you get your blackness from? See, you're faking it again.
Hindu house servant is what they are alleging that Iris was. And I am telling you, the fact that I just picked up on that in a vibe in a picture, do not tell me women do not have good gut instincts. I was just like, there's just something about the photo. It just wasn't loving. It felt very much like the help who got close with the kids but didn't want to be too close to the kids because, you know, you never know when the mom's going to get upset because you're too close to the kids, kind of a kid situation. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? A lot of this stuff is just common sense, but it's just not that common anymore. People are just like, I cannot believe my own eyes. I need to read the media. And CNN says that she's Jamaican. And then people were just confused. Like, they were literally asking the question, she was in Jamaica. How can you say that she's not black? How can you even ask me this question? Like, where is your common sense? If I up and move to Sweden, I get to suddenly say I'm white? What's wrong with you guys? I mean, this is like common sense. Of course, there are white people in Jamaica. There are white people everywhere. There are white people in Africa. It does not make them black. Elon Musk is not a strong black man. As much as I would love for him to be able to say he's a strong black man, to really upset the left, that's just not the circumstance. It is no version of reality that we exist in. And so this is fascinating. This is fascinating because this shows you a tremendous character flaw that we are stumbling upon. And a person that will steal an identity, like I said, a true communist trade. This is what they did. They were the best at it. They always took on different names. They took on different identities. They would style themselves differently. You have to remember that there was this influx of people also that were coming in from Russia. So many of the ills that we have in society today is because we received so many immigrants, and there was no correct process of filtration to determine which one of these psychos, amongst these people, how many of these people were the absolute psychos that were mass murdering Christians, okay, like mass murdering Christians leading up and after World War II and throwing us into gulags, versus people that were actually escaping for freedom. There was no method. There was no method. There was just an open season of people moving around the world. This is what happens at the end of wars. This is why wars are dangerous. This is why you cannot detach war from various refugees crises. And what refugees crises implicate is that people who are bad can slip in through country borders. That is why wars are problematic, and I can't stand the war class that constantly is arguing for more wars, more wars, more wars. We're going to get to that, okay? So by the way, everything he just said makes complete sense if our suspicions are correct, right? Iris Cambridge is Irish. She is. And Oscar Harris is mixed Irish. That would make Donald Harris majority white. So if Kamala has a majority white father and an allegedly fully Indian mother, who I have my suspicions about, but I'm still taking my time to investigate her mother. I know I promised you that would be today, but I just want to dot my I's and cross my T's. Then that would make her indeed Indian Irish, just as Judge Joe Brown recalls. And again, this would be such an easy thing for Donald J. Harris to speak out against. So you have two educated people. He'd be like, hey, Judge Joe Brown, what are you talking about? Why are you lying? Do you really think a judge would go on air and say all of those things, risking his reputation, his professional reputation, by just lying boldly? And to what end, by the way? Why would Judge Joe Brown, right? Just, again, common sense. Let's invoke a little bit of common sense here. Why would Judge Joe Brown want to come out and claim that he knew that Donald J. Harris was not black? Why would he come out and claim that Kamala Harris was not black? How does that serve anything? He would want her to be black, right? He would love the idea of the first black female president. This is sick, and this is disturbing. But by the way, just speaking of that genealogy, speaking of the very likely conclusion that she is majority Irish, that Donald J. Harris is majority Irish, it would also explain why the aforementioned Chris Harris, who signed off on Oscar Harris's death certificate as his son, that's him. These people look like Kamala's relatives. This would be Donald J. Harris's brother, who he intentionally chose not to mention in his piece, probably because, we're trying to make everybody think that Kamala is black. We need the help. We don't need the actual relatives. And this would be an actual relative. That man is extremely light. That man looks like he could be majority white, just as all of the documentation that we have is pointing to. That man would be the son of Iris Harris, who stole that middle initial for whatever reason and became Iris F. Harris on a ship manifest. And speaking of Donald Harris, by the way, I brought this up to you yesterday. What little we can find about him points to the fact that he may have been involved in drama and theater. We were able to confirm him as a student at the Titchfield Secondary School. So that would be like the equivalent to a high school here. This is an article that we found from June of 1955, and you can see highlighted, that Donald Harris is listed under boys under 19. So in 1955, he would have been 17 years old. And you can see that he's listed under a Festival of Arts concert, big event. And then we found another article from 1960, and I think this could be Donald Harris because we haven't been able to find any other Donald Harrises in Jamaica around this time, but he's again in a play. I couldn't read it too close. It looks like it's called Terminus there on the left-hand side. He's playing one of the attendants in the play that has this scene that's at the portal of death. It says that they are performing the last rites and that the play was written by a 20-year-old named Dennis Scott. So what are we to conclude from all of this? The reason why I'm bringing up the fact that he may be in the arts is because this was a focus for a lot of communists, like being able to sell yourself. It is something that I have brought up on the show many times. If you begin to look into the history of a lot of these world leaders who look to me like D-list actors, who behave like D-list actors. Don't even get me started on Zelensky constantly wearing military fatigues because he's trying to sell to us that he just needs more and more money and he's really down in the trenches, while we hear rumors that his wife is on shopping sprees in Paris. Don't get me started on the fact that it is true that Zelensky was an actor, a well-known actor. He played the role, okay? President Zelensky played the role of a president on a TV show before he actually became the president of Ukraine. Are we joking? Are we joking? I have to ask that question. Yes, he was in the arts. There's photos of him dressed up in latex and dancing, and it's all very a lot. It's all very a lot, my friends. That's all I'll say about that. You have Justin Trudeau. You have Emmanuel Macron, how he met his husband. He was in drama. He was in the drama class of Brigitte Macron. And so I just don't like when I start to see people who I believe are dedicated communists, who I can trace back to a history of theater. Again, we don't have a confirmation that that's definitively him, but I would say all the signs point to yes. And we are continuing to investigate him and his relationship with Shia Malagopoulos, because I believe that a lot of these marriages at this time, and again, this is a theory not yet proven, were just arranged marriages to get papers. That they had a goal of getting papers, they had a way of getting papers. Sometimes it was simply to have a child get papers, to have anchor babies that could get papers. Whatever the system was, it appears to me that we should be taking a close look at what was motivating all of these marriages and these marriage announcements. I can't find these marriage certificates, but I can always find a marriage announcement. Even that, to me, feels somewhat suspicious. So we are definitely going to continue to investigate that. Those are just the updates that I have for you today. We're going to take a pause there. Thank one of our sponsors at the Wellness Company, because the world is getting more unpredictable each day. Political insanity, rumors of a civil war, an unstable stock market, and now the looming threat of a new global health emergency. Yep. Did you know that there's a bird flu summit coming up this week in Washington? Yeah, it's eerily reminiscent of Event 201, which foreshadowed the COVID pandemic. And get this, the first topic on the agenda is mass fatality management planning. If that doesn't send chills down your spine, I really don't know what will. But here's the good news. You don't have to be scared if you're prepared. The Wellness Company created the Medical Emergency Kit, and every home in America should definitively have at least one of these in their homes. They are packed with life-saving meds like ivermectin, amoxicillin, and even a Z-Pack. Imagine this. No more frantic searches for a doctor, no more emergency waiting rooms, just a few clicks, and this kit is delivered to your front door. In times like these, have your medical emergency kit. It is not just a luxury. It is a necessity. Protect your family by preparing right now. Head over to twc.health/Candace and use code Candace to save $30. Don't wait until it's too late. Act now, take control, and ensure that you're protected against whatever comes next. Again, that's twc.health/Candace and use code Candace to save $30 plus free shipping right now. All right, guys, we got to talk about it because, like I said, apparently I'm Miss Cleo. Call the number on your screen now, because I've been telling you now for 2 years, that they were planning World War III. I've never seen anything more obvious ever. Either I'm becoming more intuitive or they are just becoming this sloppy and this predictable. Something happened when Trump became president, and I just was able to see the media through a new lens, really, truly. That will forever be his greatest contribution, which was just fake news. And you just can't unsee it. You cannot unsee the way in which they just engineer our ideas and our thoughts towards a larger agenda, because they want us to think that we're a part of it, like we're living through all of these things emotionally, but nothing is reality. It's all planned. right? And there was no greater indication that they wanted war with Russia, right? Before the Ukraine thing happened, 2016 was Russia, Russia, Russia every day. Russia's interfering with our elections. Donald Trump was at a hotel in Russia. We have the dossier, Christopher Steele. Russia, 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 spying on the Trump campaign. Russia, Russia's around the corner. Duck, it's Putin. Why is Tucker talking to Russia, 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 Russia? And then, oh my gosh, it's so ironic. Like, Ukraine and Russia are at war, and we have to defend Ukraine. Like, that's what it's like predictive programming. My belief is obviously that wars are being planned in boardrooms, like way ahead of time. It's about getting the masses on the side of the war. In 2024, they switched up the script just a little bit because we're already at war with Russia because NATO wants to expand into Russia's territory. They're pretending it's about something else, like Russia wants to redeem the Soviet Empire. It's such a nonsense. Russia has a smaller GDP than California. But don't let the headlines fool you. No, they're the problem. We're the ones that keep expanding. NATO keeps expanding. But they're the problem, right? This is all about spreading democracy, you guys. Don't question the narrative. But like I said, in 2024, they switched up the narrative. And just a tiny bit, and it was Iran. Iran tried to kill Trump twice. Oh, wait, really? Because I'm looking at these people that tried to kill Trump twice, and neither of these people look like they have anything to do with Iran. Don't question the narrative. Iran over here, Iran over there. I mean, it's just like every single sign has been there. Again, wars are agreed upon in boardrooms. I hope that by now you understand that. It is truly the best way to guard yourself is just by tethering yourself to reality. You and your family must be tethered to reality, okay? Our government and our media does not tell us the truth. Our media is not the fourth estate. They are the estate. They work with the government. They have been since Operation Mockingbird, since CIA put them on the payroll. These are the facts. You can look it up. Operation Mockingbird has never been discontinued, okay? Their job is to echo whatever it is that the Pentagon's aims are. And they even use Hollywood. The Pentagon has a Hollywood budget. In the Pentagon, there is a Hollywood office. Come on. Like that, we have to wake up to this. The signs were so everywhere that they even updated the draft this year. So I want to take you guys through the history of the draft in this country, because whenever you hear them start talking about the draft, it means they've already decided that we're going to war. So it's officially called the Selective Service System, and it was first founded to accommodate World War I in 1917, okay? It was then disbanded in 1920, and then they brought it back in 1940, just before Pearl Harbor, okay? Well, we didn't know we were going to go to war, but like, oh, it's just convenient that we've just brought it back and Pearl Harbor's happened and look at, boys, we're going to war. And then they terminated it in 1975 in a decision that it was actually immoral to force people to go into war and to draft them into military service. And they opted instead for a more moral, all-volunteer military. So you can choose to serve your country. But then when the Soviet Union invaded Afghanistan, President Carter reinstituted the draft registration for boys to complete within 30 days of their 18th birthday, under penalty of 5 years imprisonment and up to $250,000 in fines. Now, to be clear, historically speaking, there has only ever been 14 convictions for refusing the draft, and there haven't been any since 1986. But if you skip it, if you don't register for the draft and you turn 18 and you are a male, you will be barred from working government jobs. You'll be barred from receiving student loans. And in around 40 states, you'll be barred from obtaining a driver's license. By the way, first two sound great. I want to work a government job, and I don't even think kids should be going to university, given how dumb they're making everybody and how Marxist they're making all the students. But not being able to obtain a driver's license is a way to punish you for not signing up for the draft. So the case in point that I'm making, obviously, is that when Washington begins tinkering with draft laws, it means the boardroom has planned our war, and that's exactly what happened back in June of 2024. You might have missed it. You might have missed this in the news. But the House suddenly decided to pass a large defense budget that included a provision that would automatically enroll young men between the ages of 18 and 26 for the draft. Okay, this was the House's version of the National Defense Authorization Act, which authorized, of course, $895 billion in more military spending, because who's counting? And it's okay if they can't count at all or audit themselves, as that's just, we're supposed to expect that now. And they were able to pass that in the House by a vote of 217 to 199, okay? So there is nothing, in my view, that is creative about this process anymore. It's all the exact same formula every single time. Insert terrorist attack, got 9/11, Pearl Harbor, October 7th, take your pick. Then you have the media in lockstep, making sweeping condemnations of any person who considers the past, the present, or the future after a terrorist attack. Any person that says, hey, you know what, I really think 9/11 was bad, but maybe we shouldn't be agreeing to the Patriot Act. Maybe that's actually fundamentally not going to render us freer. Like maybe we don't need to be strip searched at TSA. Terrorist sympathizer. The media has decided we're all on board and we are going to war in the Middle East forever. And if you disagree with that, you are the problem. You like terrorists in the Middle East. It's become like a Will Ferrell movie, to be honest with you. There's just this immediate orthodoxy that's established, and anyone who questions it is effectively excommunicated and smeared. And then there's always the war propaganda effort. You've got the annual movie, and it's all becoming a little bit too much. So color me not shocked at all that tensions are increasing in the Middle East, because that is by design. We're going to talk about Israel's contributions, but first I want to remind you about American financing. Mortgage interest rates are dropping and are now in the fours. If you've been waiting to figure out how to get your finances in order, you need to call my friends at American Financing today. Many hardworking Americans are carrying high credit card balances that charge 20% or more each month. It's time to get rid of those. American Financing salary-based mortgage consultants are helping homeowners just like you tap into their home's equity to get out of high interest debt. They're saving their average customer $800 by doing this every single month. With rates dropping, the decision is so easy. All it takes is a 10-minute, no-cost, no-obligation phone call to find out how much you can save. And if you start today, you may be able to delay 2 mortgage payments. So call American Financing today at 800-795-1210. Again, that's 800-795-1210. Or you can visit americanfinancing.net/Owens. That's americanfinancing.net/Owens. Okay, so we are now hearing that Iran has launched a major missile attack on Israel. And if we rewind back to October 7th, and everyone in the media was saying to us, like, October 7th happened and Israel can defend itself. And of course, those of us who are just honest know that Israel cannot defend itself. We get dragged into Israel's wars. And I know you're not allowed to say it. We're not allowed to say it. But they've already written every single hit piece, every journalist that has gone on vacation at the expense of AIPAC. You've already written your pieces. So if it's cool right now, I would just like to speak to Americans, those of us who are very awake to what is going on, okay? The reality is we always knew that they weren't going to defend themselves, not financially and not by themselves on the ground, because they don't have enough people. That's what America is for. We are basically the piggy bank for the world, right? Ukraine cannot defend itself. Obviously not. They cannot defend themselves. So it's like here, America's got to handle it. And inevitably, we absolutely knew. I said, not a single American daughter or son should die to defend a foreign nation. I have said this since I have been in politics. I am consistent on this, okay? And so is anybody shocked that we are now agreeing to send troops into the Middle East? You shouldn't be. You shouldn't be, because every time Bibi Netanyahu has arrived at Congress to say that he wants war, we go to war. Let's just take a trip down memory lane.
If you take away the Soviet Union and its chief proxy, the PLO, international terrorism would collapse. If you take out Saddam's regime, I guarantee you that it will have enormous positive reverberations on the region. Obviously, we'd like to see a regime change, at least I would, in Iran, just as I would like to see in Iraq. The question now is a practical question. What is the best place to proceed? It's not a question of whether Iraq's regime should be taken out, but when should it be taken out? It's not a question of whether you'd like to see a regime change in Iran, but how do it...
Are there any other nations that you would recommend that the United States launch preemptive attacks upon at this point?
The answer is categorically yes. The two nations that are competing with each other, who will be the first to achieve nuclear weapons, is Iraq and Iran. But a third nation, by the way, is Libya as well. Libya is trying very rapidly to build an atomic bomb capability. So you have here now 3 nations.
All stand together to stop Iran's march of conquest, subjugation, and terror.
And we just are going to war with all of them, guys. I don't know. We totally are led to believe that we're a sovereign nation, but just like not under Israel. For whatever reason, we are tied to this nation. So the second he was on his rhetoric talking about Iran, it was very obvious that we were going to go war with Iran. I actually do not have a crystal ball. I lied to you at the beginning. My name is not Miss Cleo. I just can see right through the media BS, and I am just exhausted with it. And I just don't care. I'm not going to do the thing and pretend that I'm surprised every time something is happening. Oh, it's been an escalation. It's an escalation. What are you talking about? It's very clear that war with Iran and Russia is on the menu. So I'd like to skip the appetizers and get right to the mains, okay? And we have now arrived at the mains. On Monday, Israeli troops crossed into Lebanon for the first time since 2006. The Israeli military said that it was conducting a localized and targeted boots-on-the-ground operation on Hezbollah command posts and weapons storage sites. Obviously, Netanyahu is urging Israelis to follow all the military directives. Obviously, we know that this is following Israel having killed Hezbollah's longtime leader, Hassan Nasrallah. We knew that was going to be an escalation of events. Israel has been pummeling Lebanon with airstrikes in the last 2 weeks. They've killed thus far, at least according to the country's health ministry, 1,000 people. So yeah, it's been an escalation between Israel and Hezbollah. Similarly, they have been launching missiles over to Israel. It has been triggered by, even more so, by the pager operation, the walkie-talkies exploding across the country that we covered on this show. We know that in April, Iran launched a barrage of more than 300 missiles and drones at Israel. And yeah, what am I allowed to say? Let me just do the thing. Israel is our friend and ally. We'll go send our sons and daughters to die. And we don't support. And sure, Bibi's telling the truth, like all the other times when he said, as long as we go to war with this person, then terrorism will be done. As long as we go to war with this person, Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, Iran, as long as we go to war with Libya, then we will effectively get things never under terrorist control. Okay? Never. And our country is not being rendered safer. And that is why I won't shut up about it, okay? I am sorry that I am unapologetically American first, okay? That's it. That's where I'm at. So whatever you want to call me, an isolationist, you want to call me a Putin puppet, a terrorist sympathizer, whatever you need to call me, okay, that which allows me the dignity of caring about my country first and foremost, about the future of my children, about our roads being paved, about our taxes being lowered, about our borders being secured, rather than us jumping up and securing the borders of every other foreign nation under the sun. Whatever it is you need to call me, that gives me the permission to say what everyone can see is abundantly obvious right now. By all means, please call me it. So we're going to keep monitoring World War III. We're going to see how many American people have to die in the Middle East before I have to sadly say, I told you so. Like for the last 2 years, I have been telling you so and just been enduring my own kinds of missiles from the mainstream media because I don't like when people just call them out on their bullshit. And I kind of do that full time. So there's what we have. I'm going to get into your guys' comments. First, I do want to tell you a little bit about PureTalk. The big wireless carriers want you to be limited in your choices when it comes to a data plan, basically forcing you to buy an expensive unlimited plan. In today's economy, now is the perfect time to stop overpaying for your data that you're never going to use. If you want to choose how much data you actually want, you need to make the switch to my cell phone provider, which is PureTalk. For just $25 a month, you will get unlimited talk, text, and 5 gigs of data plus a mobile hotspot. So stop overpaying for wireless and get America's best 5G coverage with PureTalk. Switching is so easy. There's no contract, no activation fee. You can even keep your phone and your phone number. Right now, my viewers will save an additional 50% off your first month. So go to puretalk.com/Owens. Again, that's puretalk.com/Owens. Now it's my favorite time of the show. We're going to get into your comments. You guys know how this works. By the way, just want to mention here before we switch over to Rumble, if you want to support me and my independence so I can say all the things that we're all thinking, please consider going over to Locals and contributing monthly to the show. We are completely on our own here. We are not monetized on YouTube, and we are totally okay with being allowed to tell the truth and whatever the cost comes at that. So if you'd like to support us in our independence, please head to locals.com and find us on there and give whatever gifts you can. Now we are going to head over to Rumble. I will see you guys there. The link is in the description. All right, ladies and gents, let's get ready to rumble. Sophia White writes, I look forward to your show every day, Candace. Keep telling the truths no one speaks on. I am glad God led you to having your show. I will donate every time I watch, praying